Hey, power people! You are listening to Reverend High Priestess Tama Aziz Serwa. I am the pioneer and founder of the Womb Sauna, and I have none other than an amazing, beautiful, powerful friend of mine and certified womb sauna practitioner all the way in Canada, Miss Debbie Nicholls-Skerritt. Thank you so much for always showing up in your gifts, in the marketplace, in the world. And we have to have a very interesting conversation with you all about the drop that's not hot. We're going to have this conversation because the reality is, I find in my work, and Debbie, you have found in yours, that women don't know enough about their pelvic floor.
That's right.
And so they're experiencing the drop that is not hot. So let me formally introduce you to Debbie. I just want to run through her bio and give you some of her credentials. She is a holistic and creative wellness professional, specializing in movement medicine as her healing modality to serve others. She is the owner and CEO of Four-Year Temple. Her offerings teach people to celebrate, honor, and free themselves. She is the creatress of Core, an experience celebrating the healing and rehabilitative power of movements inspired by the African and Caribbean diaspora, so she can wind up, And with Debbie's specialization in pelvic floor conditioning, AfriCore is designed to awaken, activate, and release, allowing access to deeper dimensions of oneself. And as a certified womb sauna practitioner, she has expanded her skills to become a cosmic sexuality and breath master instructor. I told y'all she was potent and powerful and yum yum. Yes.
How are you? Thank you for having me, Tama. And I just want to say thank you for being my mentor, because a lot of things could not be actualized if, in fact, you weren't showing up, holding space for me. And so I'd be able to start walking on my own. So this is an honor to be here. Thank you.
I remember when you came to Florida for one of our masterminds. And we were on the beach in the middle of the night, butt naked, because we wild and free women. And you had just recently really started pushing out your pelvic floor therapy work. And you gave me the most phenomenal womb massage. I was snoring in the sand.
On the sand.
You remember that?
I do.
It was so nourishing. And that really, really made me get committed about my pelvic floor health. And so I can attest to how important it is, especially after having children. You know, Zariel came out 9 pounds, 11 ounces.
Wow.
Okay, big girl.
Wow.
And I didn't know right away, even being a birth worker, even being Tama Aziz Serwa, right? I still didn't really understand fully what that kind of experience in combination with other experiences throughout the years had done to my pelvic floor.
Yes.
And I just one day literally woke up and looked in the mirror and was like, my vagina looks different and the structure of my body feels different. And when I pop, lock, and drop it, I can't pick it up like I used to. You know, it was just different. It was just different. And then the urinary incontinence. Now, when I started pissing on myself, I was like, wait a minute now. What is happening in my pelvic floor? And so luckily, I'm blessed that my type of health insurance covers all of my pelvic floor therapy costs 100%, which is great.
Yes.
I absolutely feel like every woman, especially after 30, you need to start paying attention to the structure of your body.
100%. 100%.
Introduction to your pelvic floor.
Yes. Well, thank you for being so transparent, because that's the first part. Because if in fact we have women that are in denial, and many of us tend to hold on to, oh, I don't want to, I don't want to admit this or push into this, then we don't get access to the healing that we really need. And the reality is what you were saying, and anybody after 35, I find because of the fact that the hormones start to fluctuate, and we're not going to be, our body's not going to be stimulated the way it used to be. We're just not 20 odd years anymore. However, the other caveat is many of us in that age group, we're sitting down so much. We are driving, we're sitting at the computer. Our bodies are not designed to be sedentary as we are, and especially in this new world of Zoom land and you know, just because of the pandemic, we're sitting down a lot more. So the energy is blocked, but on top of that, many of us are not sitting in the right position, which is causing more of a downward pressure on the pelvis, right? So if I was to show you a handy dandy pelvis here, you've got, this is the front, this is where our pubic bone is and our hips, this is our spine, this is the back. We've got our bladder, we have our uterus behind the bladder, right? But on top of that is also our colon. So we're sitting, and all these abdominal contents start to create downward pressure. Depending on how we're sitting, how long we're sitting, there's no circulation getting into the area. And if our bowels are not clear, because like I said, our bowels are sitting up right on top of our uterus, and the uterus is right behind the bladder. If we do not have clear bowels, right, whatever stagnancy is just going to be pressing down on top of the fact that we're sitting in a compressed position. We're always in a flexed position, right? So our body needs to open up so much, create circulation, and then after, create communication, because as we sit, our brain locks off to this area automatically.
Wow.
Right? So there's so much to be said about why our pelvic floor is important. I found something that's really fascinating. I'm a little bit of a science nerd, which is really amazing. And one thing I realized, when I realized, it blew my mind, and you can attest to this if you remember Zariel when she was younger, when she's probably about 3-4 months and rolling over. Before she was able to walk, she would utilize, or our babies would utilize their core muscles properly to move. Right? Yes, they had to use their belly properly to move, to roll, or whatever the case may be. As soon as our babies start to walk and they develop the muscles in the back and stronger glute muscles and the leg muscles, certain muscles start to don't get the same kind of connection in the core, because other muscles, the postural muscles, are growing and developing to walk. So it kind of shuts down. So what we need to do is reintroduce our brain into the pelvic floor area, because our other postural muscles kind of take over and interrupt that connection a little bit, right? And again, that's why sitting and driving all the time and everything just further disconnects that, you know?
And from a metaphysical perspective, you know, we're talking about the part of your body that correlates with your solar plexus chakra, your sacral chakra, you even got some root chakra energy in there. And all of those points speak to our capacity and ability to live vibrantly, powerfully, with intention. So imagine the energy that's happening in your body and where that correlates with where you're slouching and stuck in your life, right? So, you know, we love to get on the camera and talk to y'all, but there is a reason why we're having this conversation. I invited Debbie to be a course instructor for the Womb Sauna University, and we are going to release to you a class called The Drop That's Not Hot. That drop, you know, I should drop some bars on it. That drop that's not hot. I don't know. I need a beat. But no, seriously, it's important to me that people who connect with this Heal Everything movement and the work that Debbie does has an opportunity to access educational and empowering content around caring for your pelvic floor.
Right.
We need the information, and I wish I had had the information before I became pregnant and became a mom. It would have absolutely changed how I handled that extra weight, the expansion of my being, and then the recovery from labor.
Yes.
I pushed resolve for 3.5 hours.
Wow.
And I was placed in a position that was not a natural birthing position for me. And so there's some energy around that my pelvic floor is asking me to address and asking me to tend to. And if I had known more, if I had been more prepared and educated about my pelvic floor specifically, I definitely would have seen some different outcomes in my own journey. But I don't have any regrets. I just have more information. And that's why we're passionate about bringing this to your attention and inviting you to become a part of this class. We're going to have 2 more conversations with you to expound upon the value of this course. The investment level is easy. It's $49. It's nothing. We're going to put the link in the comments below so that you can go ahead and sign up for the class right away. And we will share with you the launch date and all those details in the comment section as well. But listen, you need to be prepared to start making some changes. There's things that I combine with pelvic floor therapy, Debbie. Like, in addition to that and having my pelvic floor therapist, I also have my chiropractor.
100%.
I have that together. And then I also have my fertility massage therapist.
Yeah, 100%.
So what's been fascinating is learning how the work between the massage, the manipulation of the muscles, the internal reflexology that I get with the pelvic floor therapy, as well as let's make sure the alignment and structure of your bones and everything is holding everything correctly. It's become non-negotiable. And if I miss a week or two of that part of my self-care team, I can feel it.
Yes.
So my right side tends to do this.
Right.
And part of that is because my pelvic floor therapist taught me it's because of your driving. I'm in the car a lot, right? So she's like, you're literally sitting and pushing that foot forward, the other one's back, all this. So it's reflected. So, I believe that how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Right.
And the awesome opportunity you have is to partner with your body.
Yes.
The body keeps score.
That's right.
And so your pelvis is talking to you. She's trying to tell you something that you need to know. And before we wrap up, I'm just going to ask Debbie to share, have you in your training and in your work as a pelvic floor specialist, have you heard a spiritual message that the pelvic floor wants us to hear? I'm going to ask you to just be the pelvic floor prophet. That's what we're going to call you right now. The pelvic floor prophet. And what is it that the spirit of the pelvic floor wants us to know today?
I love it. Thank you, Tama, because of the fact that the way I approach the work, especially in my classes, and because it's incorporated in AfriCore classes too, I always, after we do the work and connecting to our pelvis, I always ask to listen to the movement medicine, right? It's the same thing as we connect when we are steaming our clients, right, in the womb sauna experience. And the common denominator that I hear all the time, because we automatically think pelvic floor means that that means our vaginal canal is loose, everything's loose, but it could mean overworked because we're always like this. So I always hear in my spirit, and a common thing from so many of my clients is let go. Because when you, for example, if you are holding on to a heavy bag or groceries, and this is a muscle, we've got our bicep muscles here, and we're holding it. What if we're holding that all day?
Right.
Do we have the power to continue the contraction after like 4, 5, 6 hours of this? No.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have the power to lift up even like I've got my a speaker. We wouldn't have the power to lift up the speaker. So holding on and gripping, and most women don't even realize, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize I'm clenching my butt muscles, furthermore my pelvic floor muscles. Then it's like letting go is so crucial, because your muscles are tight to the point that they're weak. They're so tight that they're weak, right? So I hear let go control, right? We hear just let go of the outcome, just allowing, and just allow yourself to feel. And it's a vulnerable place, we know that, but this is primarily the voice or the common theme that we hear when we do pelvic floor work. I do anyways, the pelvic floor prophecy.
Brand that, honey, brand that. Put it on the t-shirt. Put it on the t-shirt.
Yeah. So, and I also love the fact that we're so quickly that you were talking about your team and your birth experience, because the other common thought is that, well, I didn't give birth vaginally, so I don't need this. Or a lot of my clients a lot of people could be doulas where they're supporting their clients giving birth vaginally. But even if you've had any abdominal surgery whatsoever from a cesarean birth, right? That was my experience, a cesarean birth. So the scar tissue itself, you're talking about alignment. That's why you need to find ways to, because the scar tissue will hold, and it's going to hold connective tissue. That's right.
When I get the fertility massage, when she goes to my C-section line, I can literally feel her. And I started that treatment like maybe 2-3 weeks into my postpartum period, because I knew that it was going to start scarring, and so I wanted to be ahead of it. So I've been doing it for years. But even years later, I noticed when I started losing weight, I lost over 30 pounds in the pandemic. Everybody was packing it on. I was trying to take it off. And I realized that the change in the shape of my belly had an impact on my C-section scar. And so I was feeling the same discomfort I felt around the adhesions. And she was like, you're probably moving all that tissue, muscle reshaping. It's breaking up and giving you more information on what's really happening internally. So you're absolutely right. Those adhesions are a real thing. Just because you had a vaginal birth doesn't mean that there aren't things. And even with a vaginal birth.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely, I mean, giving birth to a human being requires, that's a prerequisite for some pelvic floor therapy.
Well, this is it, because they say that about it's said about 50% of women that have vaginal birth, at least they have the first degree prolapse of their uterus automatically, right? So either way, there needs to be, and the ancient practices, there's always things like binding, the ancient practices, just the postpartum aspect, because we're here in the West and we're like, okay, maybe 6 weeks, maybe up here in Canada, there is a year postpartum, but what do? We find ancient practices that the women do not do anything. Don't even get up and walk for the first 21 days. And you have the women in the community loving on that. All she needs to do is nurse and connect with that baby. Why? It's because of the fact that the uterus, the womb needs to rest, the body needs to close, and come back to self, physically, energetically, spiritually, emotionally, and then she just needs to be nourished. But in the West, we're like, oh yes, well, we can do it, everything, and we can pump and leave, and no judgment for anybody, because I was in that experience too. But what we realize now is the postpartum behaviors of women will show up in their 40s and 50s, right? How the uterus is positioned and the weight and that sort of thing. So all across the board, it's really important to have these conversations,
I agree. And the other thing that we'll touch in our next chat, so make sure that you're subscribing, following all of the channels where you're viewing this, because the Womb Sauna brand is all over the internet. So we're streaming this everywhere. The other piece of it that I want to talk about in our next chat is around the fact that your pelvic floor health isn't just about your womb health.
Right.
Since I've been in pelvic floor therapy, I have noticed changes in my digestive health. The way I release and eliminate has improved.
Yes.
I've noticed less tightness in those muscles that run down the back of my leg and my calves and all of that, right? The thigh muscles. So you'd be surprised how your body will tell you how much you've been holding on to that you no longer need it when you take
Absolutely.
this journey. And so we
Yeah.
invite you to sign up for the class. It will be available 24/7 on demand anywhere you are in the world. If you can't sleep one night and you need something productive to do, you can just click, log in, and be like, I want to learn about taking better care of my pelvic floor, right? I don't want to learn about the drop. That's not hot. So these are things that are important to your ability to heal everything. I hope you learned something that you did not know. And like I said, like, subscribe, comment. If you have questions as a result of what we've talked about today, put that in the comment section. Debbie and I will look at it. We will respond. You're welcome to tag me in it and say, Tama, did you miss a notification? I got a question here. Because we really, really are passionate. And we really feel like us coming together to offer this class is part of our assignment.
That's
And we
right.
understand the assignment. So we are here to share our knowledge and our resources with you. Deep bow, namaste. The God in me always enjoys yapping on the internet with the gods in you. So
Oh, yes,
thank you.
absolutely. Thank
And
you
we
so
will
much.
see you all in the next chat. Peace.
Yes.